The day she said, "I'm done being a victim," is the day she started her own business. Welcome back to the TrailBLAZER pod. I'm your host, Faye, and each week I bring you stories of Jewish women who are paving bold paths. This week, Malky, copywriter and business owner, joins me for real talk. She's one of 11 who found writing as her safe space. She's the mom who built a copywriting business out of postpartum depression. She's the copywriter whose tagline is to be an original in a world of copies, because she says that's the greatest rebellion. Let's dive in. Oh, and hit follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming.
It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. I feel like we got a lot in common with like family and just different stuff.
I was saying to Esty, your sister, who anyone who hasn't listened to that episode, tune into that one. But I was saying to her, I feel like we're friends. We just never actually met before. And that's how I feel with you. I've been following you on Instagram. I know your sisters. I know your family. And today we actually get to know each other. So I'm very happy.
I love it. I love it.
I have to say one thing though. I've met, I guess, 3 of you now, right? 3 of the China sisters.
Yeah.
And all of you are so incredible in your own way and right. And I don't think I've ever seen that before so clearly. And it's just so special to me. And I know you have a lot more siblings, but
Thank
it's
you.
just like you guys are the best.
Thank you. Thanks.
So,
we're a big bunch, but we're all like a lot of different styles and personalities.
I know, but like all of you have the best heart. So you have like that common, yeah.
Thank you.
So today we get to know Malky. So let's start from the very beginning. Can you describe little Malky to us? So we're going to talk about Malky today. We're going to talk about your life and, all the pivots and what you're doing. But I want to understand, what were you at, let's take the age 10, 11, 12. How would you describe her?
It's a great question. So starting off, just to give you a little context, I was born in Boulder, Colorado. Very naturey, outdoorsy style, beautiful mountains. My parents were the local shluchim. So what that meant was that we kind of lived further away from school. We were a little bit like out of it in the sense of the social scene. I was very inquisitive. I was very curious about the world and how everything worked. I would say I was pretty sensitive. And I loved being creative. I loved sports. I loved being outdoors. I loved all that kind of stuff. But with that like sensitivity also came the feeling of feeling misunderstood from a very young age. I like distinctly remember like having a hard time socially, having a hard time being understood by the world, kind of like in my own space and not people really understanding me or getting me.
Yeah.
And I actually have a distinct feeling of like wanting to be seen, but also like despising being seen at the same time. Like I still remember till this day in high school, the principal was like, they would call up your name for your birthday and wish you happy birthday. And I was like mortified. I like in months in advance, I was like, please don't announce my birthday. Like, please. Like, so yeah, I had like both of those different aspects to me. And I would also say like my siblings that were around me were more scholastically academic. Like I was not like specifically like a bad student. I just wasn't like a super like high top student. And I remember feeling like a little bit dumb, because I was like, okay, everyone around me is like acing it. And like, I noticed that I wasn't getting as much responsibilities from people around me. So I was like, okay, like, I almost was like, hey, it works for me for now. Like, I enjoy doing less for now, but I also think I internalized that message.
Yeah. I feel like before I ask my questions, where are you in the order of your siblings?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm 1 out of 11 and I'm sandwiched in the middle. So I'm somewhere in the middle. Yeah. Near Esty.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm 1 of 5. So I don't know the experience of being 1 of 11, which is wild to me. But
Yeah.
I feel like from an outsider, it makes sense, this like paradox of I don't want to be seen, but I also want to be seen, right? That whole identity conversation. But did you feel like you had a voice, like amongst all of these siblings? Did you feel like you were like, oh, my family at least knows who Malky is? Or did you feel like you were just 1 of 11, stay in your lane, this is the mold that you need to fit in? What do you remember feeling back then?
Yeah, I definitely got that more of the 1 of 11 feeling.
Okay.
Still till this day, like I think it's so funny. One of my like earliest memories is it was my birthday party and my family did something for my birthday and it was like so exciting. Like my mother had bought like frozen pizza from the store and like for us that was like really big. And all my siblings ran and took some pizza and threw it in the oven. And like I remember there was none left for me on my birthday.
Oh my gosh. Can I hug you?
So that was kind of like my vibe a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
Like now in retrospect, I'm so happy I grew up more. I also grew up more simply, more humbly. And now I actually am so grateful for it because I feel like it gave me a much deeper world perspective. But growing up, I was definitely like one of the clan. And, you know, my older siblings were kind of like loud personalities. I was really shy and timid, and I had a very hard time expressing myself. Um, I wasn't very assertive. I was so scared of saying
Yeah.
no. I didn't want to like displease people. I just really tried to like be a good kid and like listen to the rules and like make people happy as much as I could. I would say that's
Yeah.
kind of my role as a kid.
I love how that's the story that comes to mind, and it really just explains everything. You know, what I
Yeah.
find really interesting about you is, and something I can really relate to.
Hmm.
I'm not one of 11. I was the oldest, and I was actually a very strong personality, and I was never shy. However,
Yeah.
had a really hard time with confrontation, and also like a lot was going on in my family that was outside stuff, like people getting sick, and a lot of just like stuff that was out of our control, and I never wanted to make it worse, right? And
100%.
so I would just keep everything in. Like I never wanted to rock the boat. And so I turned to writing, and you did the same. You've talked about
Wow.
writing being your like your refuge as a child. So what were you writing about at the time, and like what were you trying to say?
Yeah. That's so cool that we have that in common.
Yeah.
So yeah, so once I hit high school, I went away to Chicago for high school,
Mm.
and it was a lot of new things to me. I was like the first time in a dorm with other girls and first time away from home, and I was also very much like questioning the world at that point.
Hmm.
Um, and so writing, it felt like the only safe space that I could completely be myself, and
Yeah.
there was no judgment. Like I could just write whatever the heck I wanted, and it just listened, and it was just there for
Yeah.
me. And like well, I got kicked out of the dorm. Like I went through a lot in that time period, but writing was that like one consistent outlet for me that was just like there, and it just felt like home, and it just never had that judgment for me. It gave me the ability to express myself when I felt misunderstood. Even when I look back at my writings now, like you can see like it says like I hate this world in like caps lock, and then like seconds later it'll be
Mm.
like neat nice handwriting, and then like chaotic and
Oh
so
wow.
you see a lot of emotions happening
Yeah.
if you actually like go back and try to analyze.
Were you mostly journaling, or were you writing stories? Were you writing poetry? Did you have a mix? Like what was the vibe there?
Yeah, I mean, I did a mix. I initially was like my teenage angst, and then as time came
I
like
relate.
grew, yeah, it started off with teenage angst, and then with as time evolved, it was like an outlet. Like it turned into creative writings, it turned into a blog, newsletter,
Yeah.
poetry. It started to become also like an art for me. But
Yeah.
at the beginning, it started off as just like pure outlet and like space to be
Yeah.
me.
I want to ask you a question. You know, when my writing was mostly poetry, and I had a really hard time connecting to my feelings, and so it was always third person. Like I would be a little boy experiencing something, and that's how I would kind of like figure out what I'm feeling and how I'm feeling it. And then eventually I did open mics. But then as I was kind of like evolving and growing and doing the work, at one point I was like so cringed out by what I wrote and the feelings I've had, and I threw out every single one of my poems, which now I'm so mad about, but I couldn't look at it. It was too like raw. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had like, oh my God, I can't believe that was me? Or are you like, you wear it as a badge of honor? Like which type of writer are you?
That's a great question. Phew. Um, I think when I was younger, it was definitely like mortifying. Like if someone were to discover my writings, I would be like absolutely
Yeah.
mortified. Now, I'm not either like proud of it, but it tells a story that is
Mm.
interesting to me. It's like
Yeah.
it kind of takes me with what I was going through and like kind of brings me back to that time period.
Yeah.
And it's like interesting to me now, but it's also heavy. Like sometimes I'll see it and I'm
Mm.
like, okay, this is just like it's a lot, you know?
Yeah.
But now like I feel like as adults we're always like treasuring our past. We always like to kind of go back and have nostalgia. So
Yeah.
I like to be able to see that documentation. But yeah, it's kind of like a mix, you know, for it's also
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, what was happening?
Yeah. I totally relate. Like, I wish I didn't throw mine out. I have some that I have an email back in like, 15 years ago or 10 years ago that I'm like, oh, finally I found something. But 5 years ago, I couldn't get myself to look at them. So when you were, 18, 19, you're going into adulthood, what did you envision for yourself? Did you want to be a writer?
It's a great question. I didn't always necessarily see it as like a way to make money. It was more of like I always wanted to be a writer because I enjoyed it. Like
Mm.
I've always had this big dream to write books and things like that because it was just like exciting and cool and
Yeah.
something I really enjoyed. And then I would say like as time evolved, I realized like, oh, I could actually make money from it too, which was like a cool, epiphany. But at the beginning it was just purely like for fun, you know.
Mm. So let's talk a little bit about, your life. Did you go to college? Did you not go to college? Like what happened during that, let's say, late teens, early 20s?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So, like, just to give some background, I would say it started at the beginning. I was first got into special ed. That's what I started with. So my career started with special ed. I was very fascinated with psychology. For a year, I actually went to college and majored in psychology, and then I ended up like dropping out. Yeah, I was very fascinated with psychology, and I also like really felt like a pull to working with special needs individuals, and I still feel like it's part of my life mission. I have
Mm.
zero regrets. Like, yes, the pay was low, yes, there was a lot of burnout, and
Yeah.
I feel like in my heart these women, these kids, they still exist. It's like we just became so close, and I felt like I had an important role that I served there. And I did that for a couple years. Like I worked in homes and I worked in schools, and it's actually extremely challenging because you're dealing with a lot of like behaviors,
Yeah.
and people don't realize that part comes with it. So like there'll be aggression and this and that, and you just have to give them as much love possible and quality of life and teach them the right
Mm.
skills. So it was something I was very passionate about at the time.
Mm.
Psychology, behaviors, people, humans, that was just always my thing. And then when I would say maybe 2 years after getting married, I was working with special needs kids in Colorado, and I was just getting so burnt out. I just felt like it was like certain places that I've worked at, I felt like I made a big impact, but the place I worked at, I just felt like we were just not doing much. Like I didn't feel
Yeah.
like there was much happening, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this, and I
Yeah.
just kind of quit at that point. So yeah, that's like the former journey.
Okay. So when did you start your own copywriting business?
Yeah. So the first initial thought, I had no idea what copywriting what even
Okay.
was.
So let's start there. What's copywriting?
Yeah, that's a good question. So copywriting is basically a salesman in print. It's basically words that elicit action. So it's not just writing for the sake of writing. That would be creative writing, that would be content. But copywriting is specifically salesman persuasion in the form of words. And that can be
Mm.
through advertising, that could be through websites, that can be through social media. There's a lot of forms that you can use it for. But the idea is, how can I get my client, how can I get the person on the page to
Mm.
take action, whatever action I want them to take,
That's
as soon as possible. So I found out about it because I went to New Jersey at one point, and there was someone I was talking to, a friend, Malka Solomon, awesome human being.
shout
And
out.
yeah, shout out, quick shout out. So she told me that she's a copywriter. And at the time I was like, oh, you do copyright? Like I had no idea what it even
Yeah.
was. And then and then once she told me what it was, it really clicked because it kind of was combining the things I already had naturally. I love psychology, I loved analyzing
Mm.
human behavior, and I also loved writing. And that's
Yeah.
copywriting is really a culmination of all the above. It's like if you're really good at persuasion and a good salesman, then that's a really key principle in copywriting. And if you're a good writer, that's also a really good key in copywriting. And so it really combined the best. And I was like, okay, I want to do this. And I took a copywriting course, but I didn't quite launch my business just yet.
Okay. So do we say that you became a mom first before you launched your business? Okay. And you were kind of building your business through it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that whole journey. And I think one of the most like beautiful things about your journey is relearning and relearning and challenging social norms and constantly, shedding new layers and putting on new layers and figuring out, just re-evolving. And I think we're often told or seen on social media like the perfect picture, and so many of us in real life know that's not actually realistic. And not only that, I think your version of growth is so much more beautiful and inspiring, and I think we can learn a lot more from that. So we're going to go through a bunch of those different versions of your life or different parts of your life. I want to start with motherhood, and motherhood for you coincided with building a business, which is wild. Superwoman. But, like postpartum is hard enough, okay? And you struggled with your own things at postpartum, right? But you're also busy building your business through it. So I'm not a mom, but I've talked to a couple of moms who've dealt with some sort of, postpartum depression. And I want to understand from you, what was the drive to, like, when everything felt impossible, to keep going, to keep going in motherhood, to keep going in building a business? Like, you were doing more than I think most people do in that stage, and you just kept going and kept going. Like, what was the drive there?
Yeah. So the funny thing is that the drive was literally pure necessity at that point. Like, and that actually is what eventually brought me out of postpartum. I feel like that deep purpose for me and getting out every day and just like starting to rediscover my passions
Yeah.
and find myself all over again, that's actually what got me out of postpartum depression. And it was such a strong drive and motivator because
Wow.
it was like, I have to succeed. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. It was like, I need to do this for my family. I need to do this for myself.
Wow.
There is no other option than success. And once I made that decision, I literally like woke up one day postpartum, feeling depressed, having a really hard time, just had this realization, like, I'm done being a victim. Like, I'm not playing this game anymore. Like, and
Wow.
we got to this point where my husband was pre-med. He was in school. We literally couldn't cover bills. And so that culmination of the postpartum depression, not being able to cover my bills, all that the above, it actually kind of forced me to do well, not to just do well. Like, I was like, I have to hustle. And like I said, that resolute determination, if I didn't have that postpartum depression or not being able to pay the bills, I really feel like I wouldn't have necessarily started a business. Or if I would, it might have taken like a few years at least. I
Wow.
launched a business like literally within a month, and I got clients within a month. I literally went from like zero to like multiple digits in a few months.
I think that says a lot about your personality, because I think these things either make you or break you, and for you, it made you, and you're saying
Yeah.
that very almost nonchalantly, like, I knew this was what I had to do, but not everyone would do that, even if
Thank
they knew it, they wouldn't take that action. So I think just give yourself, some
thank
a pat
you.
on the shoulder for that.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you a question before we talk about, more of those dynamics. Were you aware that postpartum depression was a thing?
I definitely heard about it. I actually remember speaking to my sister-in-law, and I was like, "Oh, can you give me tips for birth?" And I remember her saying, like, no one talks about postpartum, that postpartum is actually like a beast and it can
Yeah.
be really hard for some people. So it was something I've heard about, but it was not like a big factor that I thought would happen to me per se. It was just like, oh, it exists. And I didn't necessarily like understand it fully until you're in it. Like, you don't get it. I think there's a lot of things with motherhood that you don't get it until you
Yeah.
actually are in it. But this is something I'll say though, is sometimes like on the internet or just in general, there's a lot of advice out there. It's things that work for other people that it doesn't necessarily mean it works for you. Like, I noticed postpartum, I have to have some level of movement and activity. I can't just be home all day. Like, for me, that's not a good recipe.
Yeah.
Like, it just very, when I'm home all day, I start to go a little crazy. My husband can literally stay home all day, study all day, work, hustle, be around us, and he's totally fine. So you also have to know your personality. And for me, like, starting a business, forcing myself to get out of the victim mindset and hustling for my family ended up being like really redemptive for me personally, and it really helped me get out of that funk.
That's really good advice. It's like not one size fits all. You got to know yourself, and you got to know what works for you. And I think it's applicable to so many different aspects of your life, not just postpartum, right? But
A hundred
that's
percent.
that's great advice. So you were saying, your husband was pre-med, you guys
Yeah.
couldn't pay the bills, and
Yeah.
so you were, starting this business, and it was taken off, and you were kind of defying traditional roles, at least, traditional in what you knew, because obviously we all have different upbringings and what traditions look like, but for you it was defying traditional roles, right? What
hmm
did you have to, like, unlearn to be okay with taking on that role of kind of being the primary provider, right?
hmm It's a very interesting question because, kind of like I said, everyone has different ways that they want to run things or do things.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this before, but there's a process of learning and unlearning in every single step of your life.
Yeah.
And so for me personally, I saw my mother working extremely hard. She like was the primary, not breadwinner, but she was the primary like mom, whatever the word is for that. So she would like do the cooking, the cleaning. She drove us to school every single day. She was extremely hardworking. And so I saw that. I
Yeah.
saw that role being taken place. I did see also that she had a little bit of an unusual mix because she was also like helping with the community. So she was also a hustler. She also had that entrepreneurial spirit that she was overworked. She was kind of like the martyr,
Yeah.
but she was also like calling the mayor and arranging for him to come to Hanukkah lighting or reaching out to donors or really like she had that like she had a lot of roles and a lot of hats she wore. But in terms of like being a full-time mom, doing the cooking, doing the cleaning, it's something that never really resonated with me. I just envisioned it with like, okay, being a mother equals working really hard and being stressed out and having a lot on your plate. And I never
Yeah.
actually wanted that for myself. So for me, challenging those gender roles actually is something that came somewhat naturally to me, where I always knew that I didn't want that kind of marriage where I do all the work and I do all the cooking and the cleaning and
Yeah.
doing all that stuff. And then my husband, like, I really wanted it to be balanced for multiple reasons because I just wanted, first of all, for my children, I wanted them to get like a balanced childhood where they have nurturing from both ends, like that we're both close with them, that I'm not just the one
Yeah.
who's close with them and they don't just come running to me every time they're in pain or they're hurt. Like I wanted them to be genuinely close to both of us. And I also never really like subscribed to the belief system that like the man is the leader and then like the woman cooks and cleans. It just never really spoke to me.
Yeah, yeah. That's actually really cool. I wasn't expecting to hear that answer, but I like it and I kind of relate. I don't have kids, but I kind of
Yeah.
relate to like I'm so not domesticated. I don't know how to make dinner, so we'll see what happens.
Exactly. Exactly. Like I don't like making myself food on a daily basis. I
Yeah.
do sometimes, but I don't like enjoy it. And my husband loves to cook and
Oh,
it's great and he likes to cook for me and
that's
it's really
beautiful.
sweet. Yeah,
So
it's like
you guys, you found the right partner.
yeah, exactly. Like we really support each other unconditionally. And that ties into the same question you're asking. Like he wasn't insecure, like, oh, he was secure with himself and not just secure with himself or okay with it. He was supportive. He was like, listen,
That's
I want you to
beautiful.
become, yeah, like he wanted me to become my best self. He's also grateful that I'm helping him become a doctor and helping him on his journey. And like, it's not a competition. We're both partners together. It's like always so silly to me. Like I'll go to events and people will be like, "Where's your kids? Who's watching your kids?" And like, I'm like, my husband, like the father, the parent of my kids. Like, is that so crazy and wild to you guys?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and I feel like we're in a different world now. Like, why are we settling and making do with the same patterns and the same stuff all over again? Like, there's no need for us to be burnt out mothers and having hard times and this and that. Like we can choose how we want to set up our marriage and how we want to set up our situation. Still remember till today, like in different capacities, you were talking about postpartum and like people were like, oh my gosh, you've changed, you're so different. And like I heard people like whispering behind my back of like,
Really.
yeah, kind of like, oh, she's like finally getting her spark back and like saying these kind of comments. And for me, it was like, just because I don't fit into your societal box doesn't mean that I'm like failing by any means. And even if I maybe look different or I act a little different, that doesn't mean that I've changed for the worse. It's just that, yes, we all evolve like with time. And with having a kid, like your whole perspective changes. Like you literally become like a like tough bear. Like you're willing to like fight. You have this like you have this spirit. People might not understand it. People might not understand you, but it was like it's like I've always been the same me. I just have different versions and
Yeah.
different parts to myself. And with the whole like gender roles and this and that, like funny enough, like we didn't mind the whole gender thing. Like I thought this is a great situation. My husband thought this is a great situation. He's on his way to become a doctor. I'm helping him get there. I'm the most self-actualized. I'm working on myself daily. It was really other people that were like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, you're gonna let your son go on a flight with your husband for the first time without you? And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I will. Like he's really capable. He's a great parent. Like I
Yeah.
trust him.
Yeah.
So wasn't really so much ourselves. It was actually other people that were like, okay, like, is she not gonna make you some tea? And I'm like, no, he can make me tea.
I love it. That makes
Yeah.
so much sense. And you used the word before of like of choose. Everyone should be able to choose what kind of life they want. And I love that because I have to admit that I had a little bit of judgment for people because I went on my own kind of journey like you did,
Mhm.
in different ways. Obviously, it looks very different, but I was like, I'm going to college, I'm going to have a career, right? And so my own kind of perseverance with that created some judgment for other people who chose not to do that. Do
Right.
you know what I'm saying? And
Right.
when I started the podcast, I had a couple of women on that kind of flipped that for me, where it's like, actually, it is just as amazing and beautiful if you're a stay-at-home mom, as long as you choose that and it's your decision,
Exactly.
right? And it's like, and
Exactly.
now my whole perspective has changed, but I love that you use that word self-growth for me. But you know, it's
Exactly.
like, and but like that's why I love having this podcast and talking to people like you, because I think every single one of the guests I have on, including you, is kind of like a mentor to me for about an hour, and I
Oh,
get to listen to their stories, and then I take that away and I ruminate on it, and then a couple months later I see the change in myself, and I think that's like the biggest honor ever. So
I love
thank you
that
so
so much.
much.
Oh,
Um, so I'm curious why. I know it was a drive, and it was like this, mama bear, and you're like, I'm going to start a business. But I'm curious, why did you choose to start a business versus going to work for somebody else in let's say copywriting?
that's a great question. I think because I had made my success so non-negotiable and there was
Mm,
zero other option of failure,
mm,
I had to do it my way. Like, I wasn't going to subscribe to the normal traditional system where it takes a few months to apply to this job, to apply to that job.
mm.
It was kind of like a determination that I'm going to make this work and I'm going to build something great no matter what.
Wow.
And with building my own business, you have the complete control and reins in your own hands versus when you're applying to companies, you apply to a bunch of companies, you get some responses, you get on an interview. It takes a long time, and I didn't have that time. Like, we
Yeah.
were really in the trenches. Like, we genuinely like had to make it work. And I had that like resolute determination that I was going to make it work. And then I think it was just like a natural
Yeah.
like pivot that I just was like, okay, if I want to make this happen and I want to create my own thing, I have to do it myself.
That makes so much sense. When you explain it, it makes so much sense. So,
Yes.
obviously, I have a lot of female founders and business owners that come on here, and we talk about what it means to be a female founder and all the things. What are your foundational principles or advice for starting a business? Like, what would you say to the young woman or girl that's, sitting on an idea and is maybe a little bit too scared to take the next step and is not sure? Like, give us some of the tea.
Give us the tea.
Yeah.
I love that. I'll give you the tea. So I have a few principles that I'll say. I'm not going to give like technical advice because I feel like anyone could Google technical advice. Anyone can give technical
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah.
I'm going to give the things that really worked for me personally. So I told you already before, but I think this is a huge part of it. First and foremost, you have to make your success non-negotiable. If you think of it as optional, like maybe I'll do okay, maybe I'll make a
Yeah.
business, am I good enough, am I not good enough? You're leaving so much space for like not being your best self and not rising to the occasion. If you really want to do something, you have to just become it. You have to just
Mm,
like you have to make your success so non-negotiable that you will succeed and create having this like this unbeatable mindset. It doesn't have to just do with motherhood. It could be any person, any circumstances that decides for whatever reason this is something important to me. This is important to you. You need to just like grab life by the reins and you got to just like
yeah.
put in all the effort. And the reason I succeeded is because I had that mindset, but then I acted on that mindset. Like every single day, I would leave the house 9 to 3 p.m. I would pitch myself to other people. I would do uncomfortable things, reach out to people. I would hone my offers. I would post on social media. And I literally built up a business within like a month. Like clients were reaching out to me like after 2 weeks
Wow.
because I accelerated the timetable so fast because
Mm,
I was willing to do all the uncomfortable work no matter what because I wasn't taking a gamble on myself. And the person before that whole episode would have been like, I don't know, like, am I
yeah.
qualified? Am I ready? Do I have enough things? Do I have enough? Like, I would have had a lot of that like back and forth.
Yeah.
But because I was so determined and so convinced that I had to make this work, it was just like a matter of like, okay, what's the way to do this?
Mm.
And like I signed up to a course right around then too, to just like get Creative CEO by Chava Shapiro, just to like
Oh, cool.
learn the yeah, just to like learn the foundational principles to building a business. But really, what really built that business up from the ground up in such a short amount of time was just like I am going to be
Yeah.
successful, and every single day I will leave the house and do whatever I need to do to be successful. And the baby would sleep, I'd work. Like I was just like I was going strong. So that's the first thing. Second thing is like, I mean, I'm religious, so like I'm gonna share some of this too, is that like Hashem is the ultimate provider, and I think it's very important to also realize that. Like you have to also detach from the outcome to a certain extent. And that's why I don't see any people as competition. There is zero competition. Everything you get is meant for you. If you didn't get it, you're not meant to have it. And so like I feel like it's so silly like when people are like gatekeeping or like not sharing things, because it's like why does that even matter to you? Like if anything, you're helping other people out, you're lifting people up, which is like the greatest honor. Like life is not all about like money, 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 work, work, work. There's other things that matter in life that are way more important. But when you truly see that like everything that is meant to come to you will come to you, you stop seeing things as competition, and you also detach from the outcome instead of being so stressed out like, will I get the client, will I not get the client? It's like, if I'm meant to have it, I'm going to have it. And I think this like there's a few parts to this answer that I'm going to say that with what I'm saying now is also like when you're limiting yourself, you're limiting God, because you have God in you. And so every single time you doubt yourself, you're doubting God. You're doubting Hashem in you. And so it's really important that you could even make the space to believe it's possible. You have to really like, the first time I remember like talking to my husband postpartum, I was like, I don't even know if I can make 2K a month. Like I was so scared. I was like in that fear mindset. I was like, and I remember we had this exercise of like, how much are you trying to make a month? How much are you trying to make a year? And Shachava was telling us like, let it be scary. Like choose a scary number. And I did. And each month, like I way surpassed the goal I thought possible. And also like, I think that just getting comfortable with the greatness is going to allow the greatness to come into your life. Like if you're so scared and playing small, then Hashem can't give you that overflow of blessings, because you're just like, he doesn't want to stress you out more. Like if you can't handle it, you don't have the capacity to deal with it, then you're not going to get it. So I think you have to also start to like enter those big leagues and be okay with it. You have to enter those big rooms and have the space for it. The second important piece of advice is, have you ever heard of the paleo principle?
No.
Okay, so there's a principle that says that, let's say you have 100% of a pie chart, or like 100%, right, of a number. 20% of the work you do out of the 100 is 80% of the results. So let's say we got the circle. 20% of your efforts is going to achieve 80% of all the work you have. And I take it up a notch even further, and I say, do the 5% tasks. Do the 5% tasks that are really uncomfortable, no one wants to do, and do it anyways, because that will build your business so much faster, and that will accelerate the timetable so much faster, and that will yield you so much better results. The problem with a lot of people is they're basically stuck with the 80% tasks. They're focusing on all the wrong things. They're sitting there for like, a month working on their logo, or like they're just spending a lot of time like dilly-dallying, while the 5% tasks that are very uncomfortable, like reaching out to your old friends and asking them if they need a website, or you just bumped into a CEO, hey, could you use my services? Those kind of harder tasks is going to build up your business, and that's going to yield you like 95% of your work. Yeah. So you just got to do those 5% tasks. Okay, one more point to what I was saying before is also you have to change your mindset from freelancer to CEO. If you keep seeing yourself as like a small service provider, people are just going to treat you like that. Like, okay, I can replace you. I'll pay you less. You really have to see yourself as premium, and that you're much more than just XYZ, because your whole way you move, the whole way you act, the whole way you price things, it all changes once you stop seeing yourself as a service provider. And then last principle that I'll say is be a good person without any qualms and without any calculations. This is something that I did on my own, that I wasn't doing as a business principle, but I've seen so much response from it, and so much that I've gotten from it. Is that's not to say to undervalue yourself. It's just be kind and do nice things for people without always trying to get something back. Some of the people that I've just helped just cause, without asking them to pay me, just like doing them favors or helping people out, some of them are like they were my biggest clients, and they came back and they came back and they referred me to other people. And I always say, like, with creating a business, you don't necessarily need 100 clients. You could get 5 loyal clients. Those 5 loyal clients give you 5 more loyal clients, and
Yeah.
you that literally have like lifetime value.
Lifetime value, LTV. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Like
That's
you
a really
just
point.
like I literally like most of my business came from like 1 or 2 clients.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
When I was leaving the house every single day, I noticed like started going to like nature spots because Colorado is beautiful. I noticed every time I would like go to like a national park, I'd go to the mountains, all of a sudden clients would reach out to me. And so I
Wow.
actually literally incorporated it into my business strategy. Like I
Wow.
literally would on purpose go to adventures. I'd go to mountains, I'd go to nature when I was postpartum, and literally I'm it can't be coincidence. The amount of clients have reached out to me
That's
when I've
beautiful.
been in nature or adventures is I literally started to create I turned it into a business strategy, and the reason I feel like it is because when you really take care of yourself and you nourish yourself and you are your best version of yourself, there's an energy that is emitted to other people,
Yeah.
and that's kind of like that whole idea from before is like just taking your care of yourself, listening to yourself, and doing things that you actually love is not just good for you, it literally will make you more money. So
I love that. I don't think I've ever. I'm glad you added that because I don't think anyone has ever said that as part of their business strategy or explained it in the way you did. So thank you. So the
mhm,
word that comes to mind for me when I think of you and like what you were just saying is conviction. You know what you were
yeah.
talking about. Like that's the like to sum it all up. You had insane conviction. The second thing that I'm thinking about is you're just kind of reiterating in my head why I am specifically focusing on Jewish women because I feel like the value what regardless of background, regardless of whether you're religious, if you're Orthodox, conservative, it doesn't matter. The values that we have as Jewish people and Jewish women, like you were saying about not making yourself small and all these things like it's just innate and it really feeds into how we view business, right? And it's almost like I feel like you're not taught this because it's like business, money, how does it have to do with being, a good person or a good Jewish person? And you just really explained it and kind of were like I'm just like, oh, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. So, wow. But speaking of Jewish, I want to talk to you more about identity. And although we have already, but you post about this quite a lot, and I want to delve into it a little bit more. There's an assumption that people make, and you share this as well, that when people see an Orthodox Jewish woman, they have these stereotypes or they have these preconceived notions.
Mhm.
What, in your experience, is that assumption, and how have you challenged it?
Yeah. I grew up in Boulder, Colorado. Like a lot of liberal Jews, non-Jews, like it's just a liberal town. And I've already come and I encountered people myself. I've heard comments made to my mother. There's like this assumption that religious women are somehow like less free thinkers.
Mm,
They don't choose things for themselves. They're more oppressed and they're just like more dumb, you know?
mm,
They're kind of just like a copy of each other and not really thinking for themselves. And not only do I feel like I have challenged it in my life, I feel like a lot of religious women I've met have challenged it. Even it's not even like you said before, if someone chooses to be a stay-at-home mom, it's the most beautiful thing in the world
yeah,
because they chose to become a stay-at-home mom. If someone chooses to be a business owner, that's beautiful because that's what they chose.
yeah,
What I feel like is the religious women that I've seen, most of them, there's always exceptions, but most of them are extremely independent, smart, and they run the show. Whether they're running their house
yeah,
or they're running their whole thing they got on or guiding their husband or helping him with his business decisions, like they are leaders.
yeah.
It's not like even in the like oppressed communities that people think, like Borough Park, where like I happen to have a lot of family there, these women are they're fire powerhouses. Like they're not just sitting there quietly. Like my grandmother, like she has like a whole crew. She has a whole dynasty. And like that's and like her voice is powerful, you know? And she's still very traditional, you know? She did work. She was a set like she did accounting for a long time. But she is like very smart and very like a very strong leader. And she's
Yeah,
also very modest and
yeah,
she is all those things and it's not a contradiction. I think like this is something that I strongly believe is like sometime in the Jewish systems, like in the Jewish world, is the message is correct, but sometimes the delivery isn't the best.
mm,
And so, like for example, modesty, right? A lot of times it's like people present it in a way where it doesn't sound very liberating. It doesn't sound very empowering because the way they're teaching it to us is not always right. But like for me personally, modesty is the most empowering, cool thing ever. Like people get to recognize me for my personality and my brains before they get to see me for my body. Like I'm a soul and a body. And like there's certain things that are not accessible to them. And I love that. So there could be the same exact thing, but the delivery could be off. And I think that's sometimes what the Jewish world has to work on.
That's a really interesting perspective. All these like stereotypes and preconceived notions, or the things we hear or are told, have you ever internalized those messages, or you always knew, it's just something that people think? Are
Yeah,
you able to separate that for yourself?
I definitely struggled with it till like recently. Like I'd say up until a few years ago, where I really started to develop myself, my self-esteem, my personality, up until you really know who you are and up until you get to that point, you kind of are somewhat of a copy. And
Mm.
that's why I always tell people like to be an original in a world full of copies is like the greatest rebellion. My like tagline is like copywriter, but I'm an original for that reason.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
Um, but I do feel like, yes, it is a strong sometimes in the Jewish world or in religion or honestly in any community. It doesn't have to be religious.
Mm.
There's a lot of conformity that everyone's trying to blend in, keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
People are trying to like, get a nicer house and look good and wear their nice outfits. Like there's a little bit of that social
Right.
like people are very socially motivated. And in
Yeah.
religion, there's a lot of conformity as well. And so up until I really knew who I was and discovered who I was, yes, I probably didn't have much of a voice and I tried to fit into a certain mold. But now that I know who I am, I don't feel like I do. I feel like I express myself and I'm also religious. And it's
Yeah.
not a contradiction.
You said, I don't know if it was to me or on social, but you've said that two truths can exist at once, and I think you make a very good point that once you do the work on yourself, you start to notice that it's not black and white. It's like almost all gray, right? And I think your story kind of really highlights that in a beautiful way. I was going to ask, what would you say to the Orthodox woman who's still trying to figure out how to break out of that mold? But you made a really good point. It could be anybody. We're all trying to fit into some sort, like social currency, right? We want to
Yeah.
be valued. So what would you say to the woman who's still trying to fit the mold, and she was handed this kind of life, and she's a little bit scared to break out and be an original? What advice would you have for her?
Yeah. First and foremost, I would say you have to really know who you are before anything. So before you could start to like be like this or have this goal or have that goal, you first need to really understand like who am I? Like what do I enjoy? Like what actually sets my soul on fire? And figuring out what sets your soul on fire and really lights you up, that's the first step. Because if you don't know who you are, then how can you take care of yourself? The second thing I would say is we live in a world where it's so common where like there's burnt out mothers and we're juggling so many roles and a lot of women are miserable and there's a lot of miserable moms and there's a lot of miserable wives and everyone is like this is happening to me and that's happening to me and poor me. And I think the second thing is to realize you always have a choice. You always have a choice to do whatever the heck you want to do. No one is stopping you from going to the gym. No one's stopping you from going on adventures. No one's stopping you from going and dressing up like a fairy and having a tea party. I don't know. I don't really care. You can do whatever the heck you want. But I just think that it's not like cool anymore or cute anymore to just be playing that like just being miserable. We need to start taking more care of ourselves. As women, we need to stop just doing it all and putting on a brave face and just climbing into our roles and being the good kid and just doing this because everyone says to do this or trying to blend into our community because everyone does this. It's really, really important to like be independent and find out who you are and be yourself. Do it for you, not because anyone else is owed it, but it happens to be like once you work on yourself and you take care of yourself, everyone else around you will feel it. But at the end of the day, like just cause, like go have fun, go
Yeah.
enjoy. Like we don't need to like be living that. We don't need to be living other people's lives or taking on other people's trauma or even societal expectations. If it works for you, then amazing, do that. But and because you want to, because you find be like if you want to be a mom, be the best mom you could be. And that's incredible. But I'm talking about the energy here. I'm saying
Yeah.
don't be a mom and do all these things and work so hard because you hate it and you have to and you need to take care of the kids. It's like, no, like go be the best mom you could be and like embrace your role. Like,
Yeah.
no, you don't have to be miserable. And this is something my husband always says, and I think it's very true. Like, people always assign meaning to everything. It's like toddlers are so hard, or like being a mom is so hard, or like MCAT is so hard. And he's like, not necessarily. Like, it doesn't have to be hard.
Mm.
And I've discovered that myself. Like, we love the toddler stage. Like, my kids are,
Yeah.
he's so independent. He wants to do this and he wants to skip rocks and he's so excited about the world. Like, why would I not like that? You know? So you really have to discover things for yourself and just mute and quiet down all the voices around you.
Yeah. You know, from the beginning of this conversation till now, one of the main themes I think is you don't allow yourself to be a victim. And whatever that means and whatever stage, you're just like, I have a choice. I get to decide for myself, who am I today? Who am I for my family? Who am I for myself? And what am I doing just because it's right for me and not because anyone else told me. And I think that's the biggest, for me, the biggest lesson from today's conversation is that, don't allow yourself to be the victim. Get up in the morning and make a decision for yourself. And I think not a lot of us talk about that because I think a lot of us have these voices or constraints in our head. They're like, maybe that's being too assertive. Maybe that's being too, like maybe the energy is not. Women don't say that, but you know, that's how it should be. Like, why are you going to stay a victim? That's just not the right mindset at all. So I really appreciate you just, speaking your truth. And I want to end off by asking you in the beginning, you were saying little Malky had this, fight between wanting to be seen and wanting not to be seen. How do you feel about that today?
So it's a great question because I feel like it's a constant battle with myself, knowing my personality. And it's not something that ever like fully, I feel like that's like a big part of life. Like, some people, it's like they just want to be seen. They love attention. They love all that things. And I think it's something for me that I still am working on.
Yeah.
And I'd also say to this is that like Malky, that little Malky, I would say she isn't one thing. Like, yes, she's gotten louder. Yes, her voice is louder. Yes, she's reclaimed her power back. But she isn't one thing. She's a mother. She's a daughter. She's a wife. She's an adventurer. She loves to listen to hip hop with the windows open. She's creative. And there's so many parts to me. And even someone who watches this interview, like, it just scratches the surface of who I am about. Because at the end of the day, like, I am a soul and a body. And there's so many layers and there's so many things to peel back. And that's the case. That's true with everyone. But I will also say is like, my biggest thing is like, I am a hustler. Like, I move, I get things done. I partner with God to make this world a better place. And like I said, I am so much more. And like, it gives me so much, like, it's like my greatest joy in life being a mom. Like, there's nothing that makes me happier. Being a wife, it's so powerful. Like, I just feel like I live with my best friend and it's like the most beautiful thing ever. And like, I'm so grateful for the life I'm on, even though like people would look at me and be like, oh my God, she has it so hard. Like, she's like taking care of the kids all day and her husband's studying for MCAT. And then she also has to make all the money herself. And like, oh
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, it's so rough and so tough. And I'm like, no, what a privilege it is that I get to like try and work hard and like evolve every single day. And that I get to support my husband to achieve something that is meant for him. And that I get to do things that was meant for me and try and like continue to actualize myself and become the best version of myself. And back to what your question about choice is, I kind of want to finish off with this point is I wasn't always like this. I would say for a long time in my life, I played victim.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was very sensitive. I always felt like everyone was mean to me. Everyone's always doing things to me. No one likes me. The
Yeah.
world hates me. I hate the world. No one cares. No one sees me. Like you
Yeah.
said, do you want to be seen? Do you not want to be seen? I
Yeah.
always felt like, oh, I don't even think they understand me or care about me or all the above. And over time, when I got hit with hard things like postpartum, I realized I could either continue to stay in that level of victimhood, but what does it achieve for me? Does it make me closer to my dream life? Does it bring me to happiness? Does it make me my best self? Like, okay, I could play victim all day from today to tomorrow, but it's not going to make me any more successful, happy. And it's not even true. Like,
Mm.
there's one of these books I read, Man's Search for Meaning, which I'm sure
Oh,
you've heard
Viktor
of.
Frankl.
Viktor Frankl, and he talks about this. This is a crazy high level that it's very hard for us to understand, but he's saying even in the concentration camps, they still had a choice. They had a choice on like how to see the pain they were going through, how to experience the pain, how to act to the other people around them, if they had any hope or any things guiding them through that time. Even in the most horrific circumstances, they still had choice. And they still had meaning for their pain. And it's like so mind-boggling to even understand that. And so I think with my own life, it's like, sure, I could continue playing victim and I could say like, oh my gosh, you know, all those people who are like, the only reason that she's so fit is because she has more time. And I'm like, no, she doesn't have more time. She has the same exact 24 hours as you do. Yeah, she decided that it's important to her. Like, it's not like your life is like any harder than her life. Like any single person that you see successful or working towards something, and success, there's a lot of levels of success. Being a good person is successful. But any person you see working on themselves or doing something hard, they chose it. And people need to realize that. They need to stop like judging and just like, oh, she has it different than me. If you'd want to, if listen, at the end of the day, I'm tired, but I get to choose. If I choose not to go to the gym, I chose that. I think every person needs to realize that. And it might sound like I'm being harsh, but if you stay in that level of victimhood, it's just it's only gonna affect you. It's only gonna impact your life. And why not run towards your dreams, you know, with passion instead of being miserable along the way?
Yeah. I'm gonna just say one thing before we hop off to that is, you know, obviously it's amazing when people are born with the personality of never being a victim, but I will say it's so much more inspiring that you did have that mindset for a long time and you yourself chose to take yourself out of that mindset. That's showing the trajectory of development and growth, and it takes a lot more work to change your mindset than to just have it to begin with, right? So I feel like this was a therapy session.
Same though. It was amazing. I
I'm
loved it.
very inspired by you, and obviously, I feel like we have a lot in common. But you have your own amazing story and identity. But I just see a lot of stuff that I'm like,
Same.
let's go throw rocks, you know, some
Yeah.
point. But Malky, thank you so much. It was such a joy, and I really, really appreciate you coming on today. And it was
My
such a pleasure
pleasure.
getting to know you.
Thank you so much. This was so
It
fun.
was so fun.